Today's meeting is about professional services on October 30th, 2024. Mr. Hoover, I would ask you to come up as the Director of Procurement. And Sean, if you would just introduce yourself, what your department does, and what role you play.
Okay, Sean Hoover, Director of Procurement. Our department handles everything for professional services, any kind of requisition for the parish. We also do surplus. We pretty much anything that we purchase comes through my department. We also do contracts, so we work with legal a lot. We participate in regional and state procurement sessions to make sure that we stay compliant with all laws that govern us. So right now, we are very busy right now with water sector projects due to ARPA funding. They have to be issued by December 31st. So very, very busy right now for sure. So whatever.
And I would assume, as one of the first questions, you handle all the technical aspects of the relationships between us and our vendors and all the contracts and things like that, correct?
Yes, sir. We do a lot of outreach with vendors. From a lot of times, I have vendors come stop by, new ones that would like to, do business with St. Tammany Parish. And, as my role as the director, I usually meet with them, try to build a relationship to get more competition for our bids, our quotes, and our other procurements.
All right, and so if someone wants to be a vendor, what do they have to do? They just contact your office, or?
So usually what we do is a lot of times if they reach out to me, or if they'll send an email to the procurement distribution, procurement@stpgov.org. And when they do that, we will respond back to them and have them register with the parish, and they send us a W-9. And then at that point, I usually will reach out to them to have them register where we post our bids so that they get notifications if they want to start doing business.
And then you just walked into my second question. Where do we post our bids?
We post them two places actually right now. Bid Express, which is more of the online until we get to Munis, where we have an online bidding portal through them. And then LAPAC is where we mostly post, that's the states. And that's where we get majority of our vendors from that posting. Okay,
perfect. Thank you so much. Looking to my colleagues, please press your lights if you'd like to ask Sean any questions. Mr. Corbin, you're starting us off.
Sure. Hey, Sean, I guess some of these terms are a little bit different than what I'm used to. On the pre-qualified professional service list, is that just a list of people you can pick from, or do we actually issue contracts in what I would describe as an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, where they're like task order contracts that you could then just send a task as you needed something?
So the statement of qualifications, or the PPSL list, is actually something we advertise, and for a vendor or a firm to be added to that list, right, they actually have to be evaluated by the department. So like for engineering, if it's a category for engineering, which I listed all the categories in this handout, if, say, for airport engineering, if that firm wants to be added to the list, then they have to score 75 or more points, or they're not added to that list. So they're evaluated on the substance that they submit to my department based off of their qualifications. Okay. From there, it can either be selected as you stated, either a task order, or it can be issued as just a regular contract. So there's both contracts as far as task orders and just professional service contracts. So like I said, they're not just picked, they actually have to go through the statement of qualifications and score that 75 or higher to even be added to that list.
Right, I saw that, so I understood that part of it. But do you use any IDIQ contracts where you pre-qualify somebody for specific capabilities on the assumption that you may or may not need their services, so that you can immediately issue a task order as opposed to having to issue a brand new contract each time you want to do a task order?
Yes, we do have some vendors that are set up as task orders, one being, say, surveying.
Okay.
So we have actual vendors set up to where we can just issue task orders, because instead of having to sit there and do a new contract each time, which is time consuming,
Yes.
we do these task orders, so bam, 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 bam.
Okay, that's all I want to understand.
Yes, sir.
I thought we used that process, but I wasn't familiar. I wasn't sure we did, so I
Yes,
just want
sir.
to make sure we did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Strickland?
Yeah, I was just curious if, is diversity or minority contracts looked upon when you're doing these contracts?
Yes, sir. Actually, when I first got in the department, we issue RFPs, RFQs. I actually added a statement to where small businesses, entrepreneurs, minority-owned, veteran-owned. So that is actually a qualification for the RFPs, where they get up to 10 points based off of, you know, how much participating and if they're qualified through the Louisiana workforce.
All right. Mr. Smith?
Yeah. Sean, the 2026 is, that's the next time that we will be advertising for statement of qualifications? And that's going to be advertised, we're going to do that where?
Okay, so yes, 2026 is when the statement of qualifications will be pretty much scrapped, where we start completely over. So at that time, my department will put out a solicitation on the farmer, as well as Bid Express and LePac, and then all the firms will have to resubmit to be put on the list, so that the 4 years, and that'll start the 4 years from there.
So it's a 4-year process?
Yes, sir. Originally, it was every year. I think right about 3 years ago, it was every year. And it's too much to redo the list every year, because it's a lot of work on not just my department, but the evaluating departments. So when I redid the manual, it was agreed upon with the council at that time to do every 4 years, but open it up every June to allow new vendors to update their information, or if they would like to submit, you know, for vendors that are not currently on the list.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. All right, Sean, I don't see any more direct questions for you. Oh, wait, Mr. Corbin, you got your light on for...
I've got one. Mine might actually be... There you go. Mine might actually be for President Cooper. The very first one on the one of the pages we have to look at our backup data talks about our contract we have with Adams and Reese.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, Sean, if you want, you can just stay close.
Oh, sorry.
And then you jump to the next step, which is fine. So your question's next, but Sean, just stay close in case. But most likely, it's going to be for the directors of those departments.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, Jeff, go ahead with your question.
So my question is that having familiarity with the law firm and this process, is there a way that this information can be shared? What we're getting back as a result? I don't know if it's maybe President Cooper, you get a monthly report or a quarterly report or a debrief of some sort?
Oops, sorry. Katrina, you're in charge. Go ahead.
We have regular conversations with our representative in Washington, D.C. We do not get reports, but we're brought up to date. We get updates. We get email reports, email updates. We're actually in the process of putting this out again, because the 3 years have gone on. It was a 3-year contract with 1 year renewals.
Sure.
It's that time to renew again. So we're actually going to put more requirements and more reporting activities in our next scope when we put this out in the next 2 months.
Good.
To begin in 2025.
Perfect. And when appropriate, you'll share information.
Absolutely.
Back.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr.
I
Corbin.
very much appreciate that. That's
Yes,
all
sir.
I had.
All righty. Moving on to PIO. I have a question for... how you doing?
Doing well. How are y'all?
So we have an item for, you have a website technical assistance. Is this something we could do in-house with IT?
So it's something, so we contracted out our website. We redid our website last year. We just launched it in March earlier this year. It's for ongoing services. And we're also trying to increase capabilities and the things we could do on our website. Trying to make things more user-friendly, create things that are just better for our community. So we have a contractor that we go through. we handle everything for the website in PIO, IT. You know, we ask them for help just for, assistance as, teammates would, but we handle everything for the website on our team.
Okay, so then why do we have, what is the 15th?
Well, it's a contract. It's contracted out to Revise, who did the overhaul of our website starting last year. We started in July of last year, and we just redid the website. It's ongoing services. We're looking into the possibility of an app. Just a few different things, and I can get those to you guys.
Okay. Grant, did you want to?
So a lot of what you're paying for with this contract is going to be cloud hosting services, upgrades. So they're going to handle all the upgrades of software. They're going to handle cybersecurity. All this is outsourced through this funding.
Okay, so it's got your approval then?
100%.
Gotcha, thank you. All right, not seeing any lights. Thank you, that's all we got for PIO. Thank you so much. Next up is finance. Leslie, we have a question about the auditing service. I'll let you press your button, so. Okay, I got it. Okay, so the annual audit is this something that should be moved to the council? Is this like something that actually we should be directly in charge of handling?
You do appoint the auditor.
Yeah.
You're saying, would you like to have the audit budgeted in your department?
I think that might be the best course action going forward. That's pretty much my question for that. Since this is something we appoint and something I believe we're responsible for, is that correct?
You're responsible for appointing the auditor, that's correct.
Okay, all right, and that's something we could probably move in to under the control of the council and in our budget.
I mean, I guess I can verify with civil just to make sure, but, okay, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Gina says it's under the purview of the council. And then I guess if that's the case, then the second line item 2 for Act 774, which is a agreed upon procedures, it's done annually as well, but it's
Gotcha.
a second audit in a sense of specific items. So both of those items.
Okay, perfect. And then, all right, thank you, Leslie. I think that's the only question for your
Okay.
department. Before I moving on to any of my colleagues have any questions? Okay. Let's see. I have a question for HR. Oh, wait, sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl. You jump ahead, please. Jump in.
Can we go to grants management? It is grants policy and procedure,
Yes, ma'am.
150,000. Can we?
Are you on the second page or which page are you?
I'm on the first page.
Oh, gotcha.
For grants.
Gotcha.
On grants. Can this be done in-house? Usually your procedures are in-house.
So yes, we have drafted our policies and procedures, but when we went through an internal control audit, the internal control auditor had very specific recommendations on updating some policies and had recommendations, and they gave us an invoice for it. So we are trying to do it in-house, but I think that there is some benefit from having an independent party be part of the policy writing. Just, it may not need to be of this. Their invoice was for $92,000, which is where the number came from, but I think there could maybe be a hybrid, but I do think there is some benefit to having a third party assist with some of the policy writing and procedures. Just
I have no problem with that. I just think this is 150,000 for not doing it all, for doing parts of it. Is
oh yeah, no, and so that's part of it. And then we are required through our Hurricane Isaac DR money to have an internal audit, which has to actually go through the CAO's office. It can't go through because it does internal controls for us, finance, procurement, and other areas. So this person has to report for that, but we pay for it through here.
So that's part of the grant?
That's part of it, yes.
The 150, that's part of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I appreciate the looking at it and seeing if we can, it may not cost that much money. So I'm happy to see how much it is going to cost.
Jean, while you're there, I had a follow-up question.
Sure.
So you have $100,000 requested for for capacity for Davis-Bacon compliance?
Yes.
So isn't Davis-Bacon, like every federal grant, you have to do Davis-Bacon? Or?
No, there's some require it, some do not. It just depends on the federal agency. Lately, thankfully, water sector does not require it, but some of them do. And the average cost of that added to the engineers, a lot of times the engineers will do it with their construction management costs, but sometimes they don't. So what's happening is the engineer will go out, they'll do the monitoring actually in the field, they'll get the certified payrolls, that comes back to our office. We spend a lot of time reviewing what comes in, and lately the quality of that is not so great. So it's holding up payments, it's holding up a lot of different things, and it requires a lot of labor to do a very tedious thing. And so that's what that's for. But the average cost on the engineer's website and looking at several of the historical things that people have charged us for to do this was around $100,000. It's very tedious.
Understood.
But, we are currently doing, it's most of it in-house is reviewing what others are doing, but it would help to have someone else do that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I am fully staffed now, so we can do some of it in-house, but it would be very helpful to have another set of eyes doing it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. And I think that's the only question for you. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Jeff. I apologize.
That just popped in. John, wouldn't both of these could these be considered opportunities for like task order contracts? For example, the
Absolutely.
So this might be a cap amount, but if you did it as a task order, when I need it, you can release it real quick, go get some work done.
Yes, absolutely. It could be done on a project by project basis.
Okay.
Specifically the Davis-Bacon, which we will need for the Isaac funding that we're doing out at Safe Haven, and for Cardinal Cove, and for the Alton projects that Chris was talking about. So those are all going to require Davis-Bacon.
Okay.
All the Safe Haven projects require Davis-Bacon, the LA Safe project.
Thank you.
And if we go with Jeff's model, then we could use this to kind of boost each grant as we need it, right? Like that'll help you get it done faster, or whatever works in your, like to help
Generally,
you.
we incorporate it in the application as it's part of the admin
Gotcha.
in the applications. So we try to put that in there.
Right, and then if I understand it right, if it's in the admin, then we can be kind of reimbursed for it?
We are reimbursed for it.
Gotcha. All right, thank you so much. Okay, seeing no more your excuse, thank you. My next question is for Daniel with engineering.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I have just a couple of questions about some of your, and I'll ask it all at it crosses all of them, but it's what is the procurement process for these contracts and how do we advertise for each year? So it's architect services, engineering services, non-cap, geotechnical surveying, things like that. What's the process that we know?
So kind of going back to what Councilman Corbin's discussion was, the majority of these are task order contracts. So we have a different amount of vendors for each of them. It's done, everything's, I believe our cap on individual task orders is $350,000 annually is what we cap everything out regardless. Some tasks have more vendors than others. We'll use bridges, for example. It's one vendor, was selected through the standard PPSL process. Surveying, we have 6 vendors. So, and we alternate through the list as we go through with the demand on it.
Okay.
So 4 firms for geotechnical, 2 for environmental, 1 for traffic and bridges, just because of the nature. It's a little more specialized work. We stuck with 1 vendor on those. Inspection, 4 firms. So alternates through a variety of the firms.
And just to make sure I understand, for task ones, when when we use that term, that means that we just need them to do this one thing on this one project. So we need a surveyor for this, and we grab.
So
out of
I
our
use
pool.
an example. Martha's district, Councilwoman Casabon. We had a meeting with a group of HOA related to a drainage investigation. It was well outside the scale that my staff could handle. So we did a task order for surveying in order to accommodate that information, just as an information gathering. Now, if it was directly related to a capital project, it would typically be budgeted under the capital project itself and go through that way. But this is, because it's a, I guess you'd say, fact-finding area that doesn't necessarily fall under any capital project at this time, that's what's running out of the operational budget.
Gotcha. And then my last question for you is, you have $150,000 for mapping. Is that done internally with our GIS department, or?
So internally, we maintain the maps. The issue that we've encountered on our end, so critical drainage areas were established in 2008. The St. Tammany Parish added a large number of parish-determined critical drainage areas in 2016. It offers very little information on why they were parish-determined critical drainage areas. There's been questions of whether some even meet the definition of a critical drainage area. Sometimes the most notes we have is drainage issues per public works. Like that's the level of detail on why these were created. So when we have, say, residents come in and say, why am I in a critical drainage area, and we have no reasonable response to them, I'm getting to a point where the amount of issues that this has caused is that we need to revamp the way that we did it, with the parish just establishing critical drainage areas without any documentation or formal reason why to put that in place.
But are we using an outside agency, or can we do this internally with our GIS department?
It could be mapped internally with our GIS department, with the engineering work that involves to get the information for GIS to map.
Oh, so this isn't really for the GIS, it's the engineering work needed to give it to GIS.
Correct.
Gotcha, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Kugel? There you go.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, thanks again. Just for things like drainage studies, those would fall under professional services?
Yes.
Okay, so, we did phase 4, cross gates, phase 5. That should be, I guess, wrapping up. First off, is there, let's say you have a study and then you have some recommendations for implementation of the solution, that would still be under professional services, or that would fall into something more with public works, or how does that work exactly?
So it falls under professional service because it's tied to a project. It is capitalized underneath that project itself. What's in our operations budget for professional services would be things that necessarily haven't made it as far as making it into a project yet.
Okay, so how much leeway or lead time do you need, assuming you get this budget for the professional services? Let's say sometime in the first few months of next year, there seems to be an area that really needs a drainage study. How much you can just use the existing budget to do that, or how many are you basically budgeting for?
So it's going to vary across of it. For surveys, for example, the one in Councilwoman Casabon's district was about $50,000. So I would say for like surveying, for example, with the $100,000, you could handle 2 subdivision scale surveys.
Per year?
Per year. With
per
that,
year
yes.
Of the entire parish, you
Yes.
can generally handle 2 subdivision?
Yes.
Okay. And then, like I said, going back to, so then it would come out, let's say you have a study, then you have a proposed solution for alleviating drainage issues. That would then come out of your operating budget? Or go back to what you said earlier, like in the case of, in my situation, phase 5.
The funds were budgeted as part of the capital project in your situation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Daniel. I did skip, I've been reminded I skipped it. Next up is human resources. Good afternoon. Just got, I personally have 2 quick questions.
Sure.
First off, you have $20,000 for the management training for 100 supervisors. Have we hired 100 supervisors?
No, what it is employee excellence. So it carried over from 2023 to 2024, and that's all of employee excellence, which we did not do for 2024, but plan on 2025.
Okay.
So that's the budget for that. And that historically has been one time a year. Our goal for 2025 is to do that quarterly, instead of having such an overwhelming day, but breaking it off in chunks quarterly.
Okay. Gotcha. And then my last thing is you have $3,000 for diversity training. What is that for? And
Yeah, so
did we do that in the past before ourselves, or?
The last time we did that, we did hire somebody to come in to do diversity and inclusion training. I want to say that was 2022. So we want to refresh that in 2025 and have that training pushed out to all employees.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have a question for HR? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is technology. Oh, Mr. Corbin, did you have is this for tech or for something else?
A moment of personal privilege.
Go ahead, sir. You got it.
Can we cool the room down?
Oh, we turned it up because it was cold.
Well, it's not anymore.
Mr. Ford, would you change the temperature, please? Yeah, thank you. Grant, if you would come up. And before, I understand that the majority of your office is a pass-through, right? So you're servicing, like if we have a computer, your department bought it, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
somewhere around 90%.
Gotcha. And then the only question I have is for the GIS. So are your department handles all of our mapping, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
There's some external external departments that have mapping inside of their department. We meet once every 2 weeks and kind of get on the same page and organize each other.
Okay.
But it's primarily run through my office.
Okay. What departments have their own mapping?
I think planning has somebody. I have to go look at what other departments have it.
Gotcha. But primarily, we should call your department first.
Yes.
Okay.
Christine in my department.
Gotcha. I have no other questions. Anybody else have a question for Grant?
Yes, sir.
ERP, UB systems, which systems are those that are outdated?
So we're looking to replace, I think the next one we're going to take out is Enhance, which is the utility billing software for next year. So that's what that project is. It's to basically move everything get everything onto one system into Munis, and then we can look at alternatives after that, but we need to basically consolidate into one system first.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kugel?
Grant, I just didn't know if this was in-house or this would need to be out. About one thing I've talked about is the ability to have a distribution list for council members who want it, so that just to keep in contact with their constituents. Is this something that can be done in-house, or would have to be done?
Technically, that's possible. I think in the past there's been issues with at what point does that become political versus campaign versus work.
More for like community meetings and stuff, but
from a technical perspective, there's not a problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, perfect. Seeing no other questions, thank you, sir. Next up is environmental services.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tim. My first question, I'm not sure if this is 100% yours. Is this yours for a $450,000 request for a parish-wide comprehensive water utility plan?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, could you explain what that is?
Yeah, that's to, we've got multiple private utilities throughout the parish, plus what the parish utilizes or owns. And that's to look at the different service areas so that we can determine if there aren't emergency interconnects between the systems. We can look at where emergency interconnects might benefit our residents. It'll also look at how these service areas are impacted by the 300-foot rule and the 1,000-foot rule. The 300-foot rule is a state rule where if you have a new development and you're within 300 feet of a existing community water system, you are required to connect. But the 300-foot rule doesn't address whether the utility has capacity for that connection, whether the line is adequate for it, or the pumping capacity or the storage is adequate for that. So it'll look at that, and so the different capacities and line sizes.
Gotcha. President Cooper, press your button again. You're on, sir.
Thank you. I'd just like to elaborate on this as well.
Yes, sir.
This will give us an overall picture of our utilities, whether it be private or public, in St. Tammany Parish. Many times, and we've had these discussions with the developers, they do not know where all the utilities are. We know where ours are. The utility companies know where theirs are. This is going to compile all of that information, map it out, and we can have that information available to those who wish to develop here, locate here, and develop property here.
Perfect. And I would like to add, Tim, I think once that's completed, we should probably have like a, I hate to say the sewer 101 for the council.
Well, this is drinking water. The next step would be wastewater. Doing the same for wastewater, regional wastewater.
All right.
This will be a great tool for us.
Gotcha. So a water systems 101 for us as soon as
Sure.
it's done. Mr. Smith, then Mr. Corbin.
Tim, the pilot program that we're doing, if I understand it correctly, where we're going out and testing individual homeowners
Yes, sir.
outflow for their wastewater. Where does that fall? Does that fall within that $450,000?
No, sir. This is only drinking water.
All right. This
for
is
that.
all. None of this that I'm looking at is wastewater.
No, sir.
Gotcha.
No, sir.
Gotcha.
That pilot program is almost complete. I think we're about 750 homes in. We only have Council District 11 left, and then we'll be able to put together a report and give it to the council for
Great deal.
so that y'all know what we found.
Thank you.
I'm afraid to find out. Mr. Corbin.
Yeah, Tim, can we get a little bit more understanding of the scope? I mean, I understand what President Cooper's comments on the parish-wide water utility plan. Some component of that's going to be in the vested interest of private utilities to provide that information to us if they want to be integrated into it. So are they going to share in the cost of us mapping them and telling them where their facilities are?
Well, I think the bulk of this cost is going to be us retaining an engineering firm to do that outreach to the private utilities to consolidate all of that information so that we can create a parish-wide map of the utilities.
In order to sell water and provide water, potable water to residents, they don't have like a state requirement to be registered someplace. This just seems, spending almost $500,000 to find out what's already here seems like a lot.
Well, it may not cost that much. It's going to be dependent on what we get back from the engineering firms.
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. Again, I'd like to elaborate on this as well. Just as we're doing comprehensive parish-wide drainage plans, comprehensive parish-wide multimodal transportation plans, this is our effort to gather the information and to make it available so that we're able to provide for those who want to develop here, move a business here, to know where our utilities are. The utility companies know where they are. We know where we are. We have some semblance of where they are, but we would like a detailed information of how our utility systems are, and perhaps allow our systems to grow while allowing the private systems to grow as well. It's just going to be, it's a study. It's a planned study to give us more information, and it's an initial study to get that information to us. And I think it's important that we have that.
No, and I'd appreciate that. I'm just trying to envision what the product is. Is the product individual maps showing, detailed maps showing an individual water system and where they touch, or is it a database of here's all the...
I think it's going to show that there are no franchises with regard to specific franchise agreements for specific areas, but this will allow us to help determine for future development, how to steer development, where utilities are needed, whether it be private or public. It's important that we have be able to know where our utility systems are and how to grow in the future. It's to identify. We've been developing over the past 50 years without a plan, and this is going to allow us to plan whether we want to expand our public utilities or the private utilities.
Will this project include recommendations in that regard, or is this just gather the baseline data to know what exists today?
Well, it will ask those questions. I don't have the full scope of that, but before the scope goes out, it will include that information so that we'll be able to have a handle on how to guide development based on our utilities, because we're stymieing development because of the lack of utilities, and this is going to help us move in that direction.
Okay.
It will give us a final plan of where our utilities are. Maybe not where within the subdivision where each water meter is, where each valve and lines are, but it will show the geographic areas of where the utility companies are and what their capacities are, how they plan to expand, so that we know in advance where we need to invest in future development, future expansion of utilities.
Okay, I understand the value of what you're talking about. I'm just still having a difficult time. I don't want to waste any more time today, but I'd like to get a better understanding of what the product looks like.
Sure.
Is it a spreadsheet? Is it a database? Is it graphics? Is it?
I think there's going to be a strong GIS component to it.
Okay, I'm happy to. Like I said, I don't waste time. I understand.
We'll get further details.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well.
Thank you very much.
All right, Councilwoman Tanner, then Mr. Kugel.
$20,000 match for anticipation, in anticipation of needed. Why are we putting $20,000 in the budget just to anticipate something?
Well, that's working out with the grants that we're looking at for the sewer inspection program. We've got the HUD and CDBG, and we're looking at the state revolving fund to help aid people pay for their repairs for the sewer inspection stuff.
Okay, and $50,000 CEA would share for operation of Keep St. Tammany?
Yeah, the Sheriff's Department has not participated in that, but we'd still like for them to. They used to provide trustees, and we would provide the van and the driver. We would like for them to continue to participate that for litter abatement.
But they haven't done that in quite a while, have they?
No, they haven't done that in a while.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Kugel.
Just a quick question about back to the parish-wide comprehensive water utility plan. I sort of have some of the same questions as Mr. Corbin, but typical in a situation that came up recently was the installation of some fiber optics, as you know, and one of the complaints that kept coming up, at least in my district, is that they would hit lines and no one knew where they were exactly. Would this address some of that? It
could. I don't know that this will get to that level of detail where a line is exactly within the right-of-way, but it certainly would aid these companies to know which utility they need to be talking to find out that level of detail.
And I know in my particular case, I think it was in Crossgates mostly, but it was water lines and also gas, but I don't know. I guess this is not going to deal with gas utilities, just water?
This will just be looking at water.
I didn't know if President Cooper had a thought of it.
To the detail that you'd be looking for and what we'd be looking for with regards to water lines and sewer lines in neighborhoods and subdivisions, that would have to be done on a case-by-case basis or on a neighborhood-by-neighborhood basis. Typically, these days, as-built should be provided to the owners, the utility company, the private utility company, or the public utility company, as-built of where the water and sewer lines are. The older neighborhoods like Crossgates and many of the other neighborhoods in St. Tammany Parish, we do not have records of the as-built for where water and sewer lines are. So we're not attempting to locate where the lines are. This is to get a barometer of where the utility systems are located, where they plan to grow, so that we know where to invest and we know where other utility companies are planning to invest and how to address the overall needs in the future.
So if I can understand it, it's like kind of like to complete the map. You know, like we're going to map them all, and then we can kind of foresee where we need to go or where they might be going, or.
It is. Capacities available, where the capacities are needed for water.
And you know, historically with the water, even the sewer utilities, it's kind of been like the Wild West. And they just, whoever gives them the best deal, the developer the best deal, that utility reaches out and grabs that. And you've got situations where we've got one utility with a line here, and another utility with a line here, 3 feet from each other, running it down the same stretch of road. So this will identify geographic areas for development, who the primary utility should be in that area, and help us move in that direction.
So, and this might be out of the scope of this current one, but like if you said there's going to be a huge GIS portion of this, can we make sure it integrates with our current systems and things like that? Yeah. But can we tie this information in eventually with what you and I are trying to do with the sewer, the private sewer stuff? Because if we want to plan maybe 50 years in the future, we want central sewer, we need to get all the subdivisions to line their treatment plants up on the same side, you know, everybody put it in the front,
right?
You know,
right? Yeah, have the lift station out front so that when a line comes down, you have a simple connection rather than go into the back of the neighborhood.
Right. All right. Yep. Thank you. Anybody else for environmental services? All right. Moving on to planning and development. Yep. Well, no, we can do animal control if you want. I thought we already covered it. You want to do animal control?
He's wrong. I know he's not here. I do think, you know, because I see, you know, the spay neuter voucher program on there. I know in the legislature they usually ask for a fiscal note. I know we don't really do that at the council level, but I do think we're going to have to, if the intent is to try to move forward on that ordinance, we need to know how much it's going to cost.
Gotcha. All right. Can we table it and then get it to the end? All right, Ross, come on down. Hold on, I got to catch up to where we were. Yeah. All right, going to start off with the easy one. What's the timeline for the comprehensive rezoning?
Timeline is we get it in the budget, and I guess whenever that goes effective, then the scope of work's already written. I hope it is not this much, and since it's not an engineering design firm or task, we can actually get prices. So I don't know, I'm gonna guess February, you know, we'll have advertisement for it, getting going, probably like April, by the time we do contracts and get a notice to proceed. So I'm betting April, but the process will start considerably before that. Probably a 2-year effort.
Gotcha. Mr. Corbin? Oh.
I was going to ask about the period of performance.
I saw you looking at me, and I felt it.
He guessed.
And Grant has approved, you know, that idea.
Okay. Next up, there's a $100,000 line item for funding regarding coastal projects and restoration initiatives.
Yeah, and so typically, again, something similar to what other departments have said. It's just it's a catch-all. It's a line item. Whether we put it in there or not won't affect really anything. It's just it's a catch-all in case we need it.
Okay. Yeah, we were just confused about the vagueness of it.
There's no specific project tied to that money at this point in time.
Gotcha. You have a couple line items, they're minor for medical services.
I'm gonna have to.
Maybe it's, do you have CDL drivers? Oh, never mind. That's Public Works, not you. Sorry, you're good.
That one caught me off guard.
Yeah. Sorry, I do apologize.
There was the housing study listed, though.
Yeah, the housing study, if you want to elaborate on that one.
So it's again, how can we develop in St. Tammany Parish? Where is our missing type of housing units? You know, we have a need to grow in St. Tammany Parish responsibly. So where is the missing type of housing? Where should it go? Where, you know, again, tied to utilities, road infrastructure, all of these things. So a housing study will help us grow in an orderly fashion.
Perfect. Sorry about the medical question.
I'm glad I was able to answer it.
Anybody else for Ross before we move on? All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Next up, Public Works. Is Jay here? Yeah, we'll circle back. Oh, okay. Utilities. Mr. Tissue, welcome back. All right. Hey, Chris, thank you for coming back. My first question is, there's two line items, one for $35,000, one for $27,800 for miscellaneous consulting, one's for environmental consulting. Could you just elaborate a little bit on those?
These are essentially task orders that we have set in place. It's money budgeted, so if we need assistance with a well analysis or flow test or reports, things along that line, we have available budget in there. I can't tell you what it's going to be this year. You know, like each year we've utilized that. It just depends on what the need is.
Gotcha. And then you have a line item for $125,000 for an engineer of record.
That's correct. We use them at line extensions, or it's a task order contract essentially that we utilize for small projects we don't have time to get to.
Gotcha. All right. All right, that's the only question I have. Does any of my colleagues have a question for utilities? Nope. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
We appreciate you. Bless you. Facilities?
All right.
I have just one item on my thing, which is you have one person that's got a CDL?
Correct.
That's it?
That's it.
Gotcha.
But they won't have it next year.
Oh, they don't need it?
No.
Oh, okay. I guess it's what, the size of the truck y'all had, or the?
No, it's a carryover of an employee that worked at Public Works, and I asked the question why the last director carried it over, and it was in case he needed to drive some Public Works trucks to bring dirt or material between the fairgrounds and Safe Haven.
Ah, okay.
I won't be doing that.
Gotcha. All right. I don't see any other questions. Does any of my colleagues have anything else?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain the scope of the fairgrounds master plan? What do you?
Okay.
Mr. President, you're on also already.
Thank you. Well, if it's a planning initiative, I'll probably had something to do with it too. The fairgrounds, as we've seen over the years, has developed, and it has future property to develop. We want to make sure that where our utilities are, what green space we have to maximize the use of the fairgrounds. This study would be done by a planning firm, a consultant, possibly engineering, because we have plans for possible new buildings and new structures on the fairgrounds, and we just want to know how to maximize parking, how to maximize buildings, the
Use of the RV park.
Yes, we have water.
Upgrading that.
Right.
How to develop revenue streams for that.
What I was wondering if part of this plan was going to include how to make it more feasible to operate.
Correct.
Or generate.
Well,
it will.
Correct. And we would like to eventually, the vision is to turn that somewhat into a quasi-business unit that would take care of itself. But we have to have the infrastructure ID'd. We have to have the buildings looking a certain way that people will come and rent it accordingly, like they do in Tangipahoa.
Even moving around the fairgrounds is quite difficult to move equipment in, move cars, trucks, and trailers. Making it a feasible ingress and egress, and moving around the fairgrounds, developing a plan for that.
Okay.
All right, Councilwoman Casabon?
Yes, I would like somewhere, finance, whoever, I'm sorry, the facility needs a lot of work. I was a little bit embarrassed that I invited some councilmen from the other end of the parish to our fair, and they were thrilled with it. But people, we got to work on the plumbing and the electrical. half the plumbing did not work in this other building, you know, in fact, they had to close the bathrooms in the educational building. And, you know, I've talked to some of your guys were great, and they said, just give me $100,000 and we'll get, you know, the electrical's got to be fixed first. And I've talked to different people in here how this can be a self-sustaining area, because these people go to cow shows other than fairs to, you know, and they said, you'll be in the middle of Mississippi, nowhere, and they got this fantastic facility, and they pay a lot to show these animals. So I would like to say, I don't know where this would go in the budget or how, but, and if we've got the money, I would like to see some more money put into this to work specifically on the plumbing and getting these buildings up to standard, and the electrical is what I've been told.
Well, the electrical, we do have a plan. I think I asked for about almost $30,000 for electrical upgrades for next year to improve that. We've done a lot of that in-house already.
Right, it's the in-house things, but some of this, you know, it was like, you know, some of the bathrooms, and like I said, they closed them in the educational building. People were like, oh, okay. And it's just, it's not your fault. I'm not saying that.
I get it. I think someone hit a line during the fair, and they had to close it down.
You know, it's just that I think it could be a money-making project. It's some things I've talked to you about, people that show these animals and stuff. We were discussing the area where they wash their cattle. Correct. That they need something a barrier, because the water shoots over and hits the other cat, and they kind of go crazy. Just different things that, you know, maybe a citizen committee that these people that have used this and some of their needs and stuff. And I was just really, you know, surprised to hear, because I've seen how far it has come. It is, you know, the facility.
We know how to do dirt now.
Y'all know how to do dirt now, and people really, and then I guess, and people were asking me about the use of it during the week, the barrel people that do the barrel racing and stuff, that, you know, are things like, are we utilizing it to, you know, the best of our ability to make money on it, and then put that money, you know, back into it. So, but if it's anywhere in our budget that we could find more money or use some of this that we're allotting to get these things done and stuff, I'd like to see it, and I'd like to have a fly swatter. that thing is driving us crazy here. But thank you.
Jim can explain further, but in the 2025 budget that is before you for the capital budget at the fairgrounds, in addition to the master plan, I don't know what $94,000 is for bathrooms. I don't know if those are in that building or not.
That's a request, yeah.
Yeah.
And to redo bathrooms. And
then there was $35,000 with regard to the electrical system.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Corbin?
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize what Martha was. I was walking around Martha. I hate to admit it, but it's the first time I'd ever been at the fairgrounds during the fair since as long as I've lived here. But to walk into the first building I walk into and have half of the men's bathroom roped off as being non-functional on opening day just seemed something we ought to be prouder of ourselves than that. And so I think that getting some of those things fixed, plumbing and electrical, as I talked to people like Martha did, that some of your team and some of the other people I met that were our team Tammany people, that theme was consistent. We need water, we need sewage to drain. So thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Impastato?
No other questions, I'll call that adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Oh, wait. Okay, wait. We have another one?
That was just professional.
Yeah, but I can close this one, right?
Facility.